just somewhere along the line, somebody in an ivory tower somewhere in, you know, multiple states, board of regents, education departments, you know what? Why are we teaching our kids civics? Why are we teaching our kids geography? They don't need it. Wrong answer. Look around us, folks. You know, we got a GPS system. When I was teaching high school, most of those kids would sort of know the way to the nearest mall. Other than that, not so much. You know, some of the postings you see on Facebook about the government should do this and the president should do that, and Congress goes, whoa, apparently you never have had a civics course. So before we went into any one of my chapters in social studies, whether it was state history, local history, national history, I would give them a segment on geography. And, well, I'm the teacher of this class, so you actually are going to get a segment on geography. But it's important because, as we, hopefully by the end of this segment, you'll understand how geography and topography tie in to the Vicksburg story. A wise and very smart man once said, if history is the play, and geography is the stage. How can you really have one without setting the other? I think I said that 20 years ago, but anyway, that was the, if you're looking for a contribution, I said that. We're going to be looking at three primary geographic and topographic features and their significance to the story here at Vicksburg. Vicksburg is defined by, first of all, the Mississippi River. Remember, was it James Carville? Was that I think he was Clinton's campaign thing. And he kept telling all the campaign workers, it's the economy, stupid. It's the economy, stupid. Keep the discussion focused on the economy, because the economy was doing great. Let's not talk about a few other things, let's talk about the economy. What's the primary thing we want to talk about here? What is Vicksburg about? The river. If Vicksburg was where Jackson is, would there have been a battle here? Probably not, because it would have had no strategic value. So first and foremost, the story of Vicksburg is the story of control of the Mississippi River. Secondly, the river's almost, 1,800 miles long? What makes this particular piece of it so important or so special? Well, the river meets the bluffs and the delta. We'll go into that again a little more as to why that combination is so critical to us here. And we throw in a third ingredient, our strange dirt, our Loess soil. These three geographic and topographic features are what define Vicksburg, and they're integral parts of the story. You can't tell the story of what happened here without knowing about those three issues. The Mississippi River watershed is the fourth largest in the world. I can't tell you which order they are. I think the Amazon is first, then I believe the Nile, then the Congo, then the Mississippi. It is over 2,000 miles wide. It drains from the border between Idaho and Montana all the way up to western New York State. Those are all within the Mississippi River watershed. In fact, I remember when I used to teach New York geography, there's a little place out around Chautauqua, Cattaraugus County, that if you dumped a big bucket of water and you didn't have to worry about absorption or evaporation, part of that bucket would flow into the Allegheny, into the Ohio, into the Mississippi, and the Gulf of Mexico. Part of it would go into the Great Lakes, over Niagara Falls, up to St. Lawrence, come out near Newfoundland. Part of it would come into the West Branch of the Susquehanna and come out on Chesapeake Bay. So, from that particular watershed, that particular hill in Cattaraugus County, all the way to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, all drains into the Mississippi watershed. In times before railroads, in times when freight and crops and machinery and anything you want hauled was hauled either on human backs or by animal power, what is the most efficient and effective way of moving heavy things? by water. I used to ask my kids, because a lot of them are scouts, go, okay, how many of you guys have gone on a 10-mile hike? A lot of them. That 30-pound, 40-pound ruck starts to get heavy after the first couple of miles, don't it? If I gave you a choice between carrying that 50-pound ruck on your back or throwing it into a canoe and paddling, who's going to take the march, who's going to take the canoe? A couple of dumb ones say, well, I'll walk with it. Wrong answer. It is much, much easier, much more efficient to move weight by water. Much cheaper. I want to steal David's economic thunder here for his presentation. But stop and think, that 2,000-mile wide watershed is the transportation network of the interior of the North American continent. And it all comes down to the big money, to the father of waters. And it comes by this city and goes down to New Orleans, which is there by the window of the world, window to the world, I should say, for the interior of the North American continent. So, first of all, first and foremost, is its size, and it's important. It is literally, in the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries, this river is the key to the continent. Economic importance. As we get into the 19th century, the old Northwest Territory, that's up around Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, and the old Southwest Territory, that's us down here, has settled in. What is the primary industry in the West? Agriculture. Yeah, depending on where you are in latitude. Cotton down here, up north, grains, crops, and stuff like that. What is, to be successful at farming, what is a key component of your economic business plan? Selling it. You got to get it to market, okay? For those of us in the midsection of the country, what is the means to market? The rivers. The rivers. The economic welfare of the entire middle part of the United States is completely dependent upon the Mississippi and her tributaries. By the way, here at Vicksburg, every major tributary of the Mississippi except the Red River has already joined it. So we have about 90% of the volume and flow of the Mississippi River going past our city every day. So we're a major player, and also, after secession, a major choke point for those in the north wishing to get their farm goods, their crops to market, and their machinery and manufactured goods back to them. So economically, the Mississippi is of vital importance. Military strategy, if you want control of a place, doesn't it make perfect strategic sense to seize its means of mobility, its means of communication, its means of shipping goods, its economic lifeline? Very early in the war, both presidents understood that the government that controlled the Mississippi River, the war. In 1861, Abraham Lincoln calls all his senior officers, those who would want to become senior officers, into the war room, puts his hand on the map and says, "See all the land that these fellows control, of which Vicksburg is the key. And I do not think that this war shall come to a satisfactory conclusion until that key is in our pocket." Jeff Davis, president of the Confederacy, does he know about Vicksburg? He lives here. He calls our city the nailhead that holds the two halves of the Confederacy together. So both U.S. presidents are looking at the Mississippi River, and specifically they're looking at the one point that controls the Mississippi River, Vicksburg. So when it comes to military strategy, absolutely. The river and control of the river. Whoever does, is going to win the war. It's as simple as that. Political importance. Any idea why the river would be politically important? Where does President Lincoln hail from? He's from Illinois. When the South secedes and the Mississippi is cut off, what happens to all those crops in the fields in Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, the upper Midwest? They rot. What about the machinery and stuff? Oh, by the way, were there not railroads that went to the east? There were actually several. Remember, this is the dawning of the age of the robber baron. Most of the really good robber barons owned railroads. When they said, oh, geez, the Mississippi River got cut off? How unfortunate. Price of freight just went up 10 times per ton. Now, there's not a whole lot of profit margin in wheat and corn and what have you. You start jacking up the price 10 times per ton to ship it east on a railroad. So, do you think there was any political pressure put on Abraham Lincoln to get that river open again? His home constituents basically told him loud and long, if you can't get that river open and do something about this, maybe we need to find ourselves a president that can. They were blunt. Read the Midwestern, upper Midwest newspapers at the early part of the war. They are screaming for his head on a platter because their crops are dying. Without money, they can't buy some of the things, the foodstuffs that the families need. It throws his home country into an incredible economic depression. On top of that, they're taking all the young men to go fight. So he is not very popular in his own backyard because Vicksburg has sealed the river off to the north. So those three main things when it comes to the river. I was trying to get a good topographical map of the lower Mississippi, and there just wasn't any. I had to steal off the internet. But that one came the closest to what I was looking for. When we talk about the Civil War, you will hear the phraseology, in my pocket with 10 million other things down here. You will hear the phrase Eastern Theater and Western Theater. I didn't think I owned that many keys. Of course, the last thing I come to is the pointer I was looking for. Who knows when we talk about Eastern Theater? Are we talking east of the Mississippi? Talking east of the Appalachians, or Appalachians. Where's Carly?
Appalachians.
Appalachians. I knew I was going to get corrected on that. Jake warned me. Our neck of the woods is called Appalachians, but I'm not going to get into that with Carly. She's got a mean laugh. So here's the Eastern Theater. Everything past the Appalachians is Western Theater, including us, Atlanta, Chattanooga. You can see that whole inland empire there. But when we talk about, again, the control of the Mississippi Valley, we're going to get more and more specific. As I told you, we're going to tie those three things together, the river, the bluffs, and the Loess Soil. So this just gives you the big picture. And again, you can see Eastern Theater, Western Theater. This is again, not very good because there's not a whole lot of topographical differences in the lower Mississippi Valley. But again, there's our river going right up there. Now, this is the Delta region. We know what we mean when we say the Delta. If you're talking to people from the rest of the country, unless they are blues aficionados, they're going to look at you and blink and go, I thought you were like 160 miles inland. Well, yeah, we are. What's the textbook definition of a delta? It's where a river enters the ocean and deposits its alluvial silt and stuff and builds a delta. The true Mississippi Delta is south of New Orleans. By the way, we're losing like 100 square miles of it every year now because of erosion. When we talk about the delta, we're talking about this region here on the Mississippi side of the river, Arkansas, and Louisiana, right in here. So you have to, from visitors out of state, you've got to explain that this, particularly in the 19th century, was this huge inland floodplain that was known as, and is still known as, the Delta. Not to be confused with down there in the Gulf of Mexico. The lowest bluffs leave the banks of the Mississippi up around Memphis, and they make this big crescent to the south. They come back around, and they meet the river again, where? Here at Vicksburg. The area between the bluffs and the river is the large inland floodplain on this side of the river, known as the Mississippi Delta. And again, there's not a lot of differentiation in altitude, but you can see there's the crescent right there. There are the Loess Bluffs. There's the river in this floodplain right here. Again, blues aficionados will know exactly what you're talking about. The rest you got to explain. There's what we call the Mississippi Delta. Where does the Mississippi Delta end? Where's the southern end? Vicksburg. Catfish Road and Beale Street. Again, the blues people will straighten you right out of that in a hurry. I mentioned Loess Bluffs. So now we got to talk about Loess, or Loess. This is a Germanic word. It's glacial in origin. It's formed during the ice ages. Extremely fine mixture of silt, sand, and some clay. Basically, stop and think. Over the millennia, as we've had ice ages, the tops of the mountains, the Appalachians, and the Rockies stick up above, where for thousands of years they are scoured by winds. Small pieces of silica, sand, and there's a calcium carbonate. We'll kind of go into it, kind of use it as a loose glue. And one of the handouts goes into more detail that I gave you here tonight on the Loess Soil. But basically, where it comes from is ice ages. It's scoured off the rocks from the mountain peaks that stick above the ice masses in the North American continent every 10, 12,000 years when we go through the ice age. It can also be carried by water. And do we happen to have a large river conveniently bring it down to us? Where during flood stage it brings the Loess down, because it is kind of a silt. But what makes it Loess is not just silt. The difference between silt and Loess is when the river's in flood stage, you deposit it. When the river goes into low stage in the summer, the winds would pick it up and build up these ridges, again, that you saw along there in Memphis and stuff. So it is wind-driven, very fine. It's homogeneous and very stable if undisturbed, but highly susceptible to erosion. Why do we need to know that much about our dirt? Well, my boss always has this, so what? We're going to get to a point, so what? So what? How does the Loess affect the story of Vicksburg? First of all, it creates the bluffs. Without bluffs, do we have any strategic value? Not really. It erodes to form the hills and ravines. Now, great, take a look, and I got a small version I'll be putting up here in a minute. But look at that 1863 engineering map up on the road, up on the wall in there. And it shows just how strongly this topography favored the defender. It allows both soldiers and civilians to dig highly stable caves. You know, without propping up. They didn't have to take a whole bunch of lumber down there, which they didn't have, to shore up the caves, because if you cut the Loess straight, it seems to be perfectly happy. Which saves countless lives, thousands of lives. The highest accounting of civilian fatalities that I've come across in my studies is around 12. Stop and think of the tens of thousands of artillery rounds that came into the city. 12 people killed. Why so low? Loess soil. You could dig these caves. When shells are coming in on you, dirt's your friend. Get into it quick, get into it deep. Finally, where do the river, the bluffs, and the soil all come together? I'll give you the real estate hint. Location, location, location. Vicksburg. Like I say, there's a version of that map out there. Now, if you look to the north of us in the Delta, can you fortify the Delta? If you're the Confederate government and you're looking, you know you're going to be invaded by the Union. And they're going to take the best avenues of approach they can. The South, prior to the war, we talked about the economic value of the rivers. The South valued its river infrastructure. In fact, it didn't build a lot of railroads. They said, we don't need them. The rivers get our cotton to the Mississippi or to one of its tributaries, where it goes to New Orleans, where it goes to the world markets. Our rivers do everything we need it to do as far as the transportation network. Comes to Civil War, the rivers are turned on the South. The North looks at these same rivers and goes, you know what? Who controls the rivers? Controls the West, controls the war. And immediately puts its industrial might to work and technology to work to build a modern, technologically efficient series of river battleships like the one we have here in our park that Gettysburg does not have in theirs, to exploit the vulnerability of the South and its rivers. So again, control of the rivers, The North has the manufacturing capacity, the technology. The South tries, the CSS Arkansas. I can't think of a braver crew or a braver ship. What happens to the Arkansas? Its engine poops out. Its engine poops out. They did not have the machinery and the foundries and stuff to be able to make ships like the Seven Sister ships that were here. This is in your handout there. We will be posting things. Again, there's the park website. There is the Facebook page. And there is the YouTube page that we'll be posting the films and stuff on. Any questions on it? We looked at that kind of quick. Went a little longer in the first part than I planned. Any questions on the topography and geography?
When you said earlier that only 12 civilians died, was that in Vicksburg? Wow.
That is the highest number we've seen documented. And they kept pretty good records. I mean, a lot of the records disappeared afterwards, but particularly of the military casualties. The undertakers kept amazingly good records throughout the siege and stuff. And when I first, put in references, I was pretty much gobsmacked. For all the rounds that went in, 12 people, but it was because of the caves, because of that Loess Soil. It really was a force multiplier for the Confederacy. Any other questions on this portion of it?
This is kind of related to the subject at hand. Is the part of the park across the river included in the tours ever? Branch Canal unit?
It can be. Logistically, it's hard, Jim, to do our 1,800 acres here and get across the river. Now, if they say, look, you know what, for an extra $20, knock yourself out, take us across the river, we want to see downtown, bring us to the circles. Will people do that? Yeah. Does it happen a lot? 2 hours, I mean, again, to us, and I always admit your prejudice, I'm a history dork. I can listen and talk about history all day. Some people after 2 hours, their eyes are getting glassy, So where's the place to eat? I need to get a drink or something. But yes, I mean, you can bring them over there. It's just, you really can't logistically and realistically do it within that 2.25 hours or so. Does I see a hand over here?
Tim, especially people from Connecticut are interested in their
Because there's state monument
at
over there.
Grants Canal. So we do encourage them to go, even if they go on their own.
Yep, one of our newer monuments to the 9th Connecticut, the Irish Regiment over there. That is the Connecticut State Monument. And by the way, a little side thing, the first sergeant that was there, the chaplain for the regiment, were the ones that went on after the war to found the Knights of Columbus. So we will get people from not just Connecticut, but all over the country who are members of the KFC want to come down and see that because they've read it. It was, I guess, featured in the National Knights of Columbus newsletter here a couple of years ago when they dedicated it. We had an honor guard from the KFC at the time for the ceremony. Any other questions? For those of you who've been the guinea pigs for the first hour, put up with me for the first hour, I salute you. For those of you who want to become licensed battlefield guides, thank you. Thank you so much.